yeah, it's a career. I don't think it's really considered only a job, and I think is both a special side of it, and at the same time is also really really heavy for the people around you.
On the Win is presented this season by two old friends of the podcast. First up is Rutgerson Marine, a Swedish sailing hardware company, and OPO, Offshore Passage Opportunities, run by our good friend Hank Schmidt. OPO is a fantastic resource if you want to build offshore experience. You join Hank's mailing list and get access to delivery opportunities all over the world, often sailing for free as crew. We'd obviously love to have you sailing with us at 59 North, but if you don't have the time or budget for that, OPO is a great alternative. And if you're a boat owner looking for crew, you can sign up for free. Check it out at sailopo.com. Rutgerson Marine makes some of the best sailing hardware out there, and we have been using them for a long time. Eastbeyond is full of Rutgerson stuff, and it's just such great quality. We recently replaced the mainsail on Eastbeyond, and the batten receptacles from the old mainsail, after 80,000 nautical miles, looked so great that I took them all off and kept them as spares. We also have blocks and pads and low friction rings and all sorts of great stuff from them. You can find them at rutgerson.se or at your local chandlery. Again, that's sailopo.com and rutgerson.se. Thanks to both for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Ahoy, shipmates. I'm August. This is On the Wind. Welcome back. Hope you are all doing great. I will pass the con over to Nikki in a minute, who is hosting this episode. I just wanted to tell you about our upcoming Celestial Navigation workshop in Annapolis. Andy will be teaching it. It's April 17th and 18th. That's Friday and Saturday. And there's also an optional hangout on Thursday evening. A chance to meet some like-minded folks and talk about sailing and celestial and navigation and all things related. So go to 59-north.com/celestial for all details on that and to sign up. Also, got an open bunk on Eastbeyond on one of our highly requested sail training camps out of Bergen. That's May 19th till May 26th. So go to 59-north.com/bunks to see all the details on that. And also you'll find all of our other openings on that site. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day. And as always, hold fast.
All right, Nikki, so you are back on the podcast this week as the host instead of the guest. And I love listening to your episodes because it's the first time I get to listen to my own show, but it's not me interviewing the person. This one was with Francesca Clapcich. Am I saying that right?
You're right, Clapcich, yeah.
And we've had this one in the bank for a while. I think, if I remember right, you interviewed her around the time of Fastnet last year, but give us some context, update us on where this is at now, and what was the context when you first started talking to her, and what do you guys talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to interview her for a long time. She's sponsored by 11 Hour Racing, and I think lives in Colorado or Utah, lives in the States, is married to an American and is Italian born. And she's working towards a Vendée Globe campaign. And when we spoke, she was about to join Team Militia for a few of the legs of the Ocean Race Europe. And Frankie's just one of those really interesting sailors. She started her career, in dinghies and then transitioned to ocean racing with Dee Kafari on the Turn the Tide campaign that they did on the Ocean Race, and since has kind of gone from strength to strength. And one thing that was really interesting about Frankie is kind of the more purpose-driven side of her sailing career. I think, like many of us, we get to a certain level in sailing and then we think, what is this all for? This is not just a hedonistic, glory-seeking, what else can I do thing, especially not when you reach the top, when you have raced around the world multiple times. And so she gets really into that and talks about, her kind of campaign for gender equality and equal opportunity, and talks a lot about just how we diversify the sport. And these things are super interesting, and my own passions as well.
When you talk to successful racing sailors, specifically like Francesca, and you've talked to a lot of them on this podcast over the years, is there a part of you that gets inspired again to like, oh shit, maybe that is something I should pursue? Or like, how do you feel personally? Because I know you were kind of maybe on that path.
Personally, I love stories like Frankie's, someone like Di Cafari. I love the stories where people are using their platform as successful ocean racers to send another message. And, especially as women in this industry, it is quite scary to go up there. Already you kind of feel like you're on the back foot, and then say, and I want to shine a spotlight on something that could be better. It's a scary thing, and I find that inspiring. People who decide, I'm old enough, I'm wise enough to not care so much about what other people think and do what the right thing is. And maybe that doesn't mean maybe that means I won't win. Maybe that means I won't get as much glory, but there's a reason for it. So I do get inspired by that. Do I want to be a professional ocean racer sailing in a mocha around the world? There's always a little part of me that wonders, wow, that would have been amazing. But I'm happy with the path I'm on, and I'm following other passions too.
Cool. Was there anything, because we said you interviewed her, I think back in August last year almost. Is there any context that you want to give people to let them know that this is not recorded last week, for example?
They were gearing up to the Ocean Race Europe, so that's the race we're talking about, which is kind of like a mini version of like the round the world ocean race. She did do that, and then her and Will Harris then subsequently raced on the Transact, I think, CAF Law, and they came second on that. So she's done a fair amount of racing since, but still is sponsored by 11th Hour Racing.
Awesome, cool, great. Well, I'm excited to listen to this one as a fan this time. Thanks for hosting, Nikki.
I hope you all enjoy. You're listening to On the Wind, the podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Nikki Henderson. Francesca Clapcich is an Olympian, a world champion, and in 2023 became the first Italian to win the ocean race. She most recently skippered Upwind by Mare Concept, an all-female Ocean 50 trimaran campaign, and now she's set her sights on the 2028 Vendée Globe with her title sponsor, 11th Hour Racing. We caught up back in July while she was enjoying a few final weeks at home in Utah with her wife and daughter, before heading off to co-skipper 4 of the 5 legs of the Ocean Race Europe with Team Milizia. We spoke about starting new chapters, redefining success, and her mission to do more than just sail. So, hi Frankie.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. It's 9 a.m. I'm in Bainbridge Island, just west of Seattle. Where are you?
This is close to Park City, where I am, and it's 10 a.m., so it's mountain time. I know it's pretty funny to have a sailor living in the mountains, but that's really where I love to be in my really little free time.
Are you getting ready to go off to the ocean race at the moment?
Yeah, so the Ocean Race Europe just started in a few days, and I will not be on during the first leg, so I still have a few days at home, but I will be doing the entire race from leg 2 until the finish in Montenegro. So it will be a pretty long stretch.
Was this always part of your kind of hopeful schedule? Like, did you actively look for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's viewpoint, right? Like the Ocean Race Europe, it's a race that I never done before, and for me it's quite exciting. It's really short legs. It's almost like coastal racing, where it's not like big ocean racing that you're going for like 20 plus days, and it really is bring back a lot of good memories about a mix of like dinghy sailing, Grand Prix sailing, offshore racing. So I think overall it's a really fun and cool race to do. And I have the great opportunity to do it with Team Malizia, and at the same time is also for me personally a great opportunity to learn a lot about my future boat. So Malizia Free, that is now owned by Boris Herman, will be my future boat for the Vendée Globe in 2028, and being able to do a lot of miles on it, being able to race on it with a lot of other sailors that have great experience and can kind of hand over all the secrets of the boat. It's I think it's really, really valuable for me and really valuable for my own program in the next few years.
So you've raced around the planet twice with an ocean race campaign, and you've got Ocean Race Europe coming up, and you're building up to the Vendée. So, is sailing large distances and being away from land for long periods of time something that was always a dream of yours?
I'm not sure it's always been a dream of mine. A lot of people grow up with a dream, and I think it's also about what you get exposed to when you're pretty young. Like I grew up in Italy, I grew up in a small town in the northeast of Italy. The sailing culture is pretty much there. We have the Barcolana race that is the biggest event in the world, and every kid does sailing school in the summer. So it's not really about sailing as a sport, but I really never thought that, especially for a girl, for a woman in this sport, it would be possible to do these kind of events like ocean racing, or not even becoming like a professional sailor. I had representation in dinghies during the Olympics. That's always been my dream and my goal. I was, growing up watching the Olympic Games on the TV, and that was my biggest dream, being able to represent my country in the biggest stage of a sport and hopefully win a medal. And that was pretty much what was driving me for most of my career. And then, yeah, I mean, it was always a bit in the back of my mind, the offshore racing. I do love adventure. I do love, big challenges. And I don't know, one of the reasons I live in the mountain is because, I love the outdoor. I love being out there and backcountry skiing and be, quite in the wild nature for a pretty long amount of time. And like offshore racing definitely brought that to me in the sport that I love, and in the sport that I hopefully am pretty decent at. I could do it as a profession too.
If you say, hopefully I'm pretty decent, I think most people in the world would be like, okay, well, if she thinks she's pretty decent, I'm pretty awful.
Well, there are some incredible sailors out there, so it's really hard to think to put myself at the same level of that sailors that are doing incredible work. So I still have a long way to go.
Which is the beauty of the sport, right?
I
So much to
agree,
learn.
and yeah, and I think for a lot of people you can see separation. Oh, you've done the Olympics, and then you did offshore racing, and from the outside, the two worlds seem so disconnected. But at the end, everything that I learned in small dinghies, doing Olympic preparation, I brought it with me into offshore racing. I brought it with me in the Women's America's Cup, and it's like, I don't know, it's an ongoing learning, and I think that's really the special side of our sport is that I do believe it's in every sport. When you reach at a pretty high level in every sport, I think the best and what we kind of call the goats in every sport, like the common theme is that they keep learning the game every day. They never stop learning. They never stop thinking that they already arrived somewhere. And I think that's what keep bringing that curiosity and the hard working and the commitment to the sport, and keep also having, I mean, I'm 37 right now, so it's like, yeah, I want to have like longevity in the sport. So of course, having this like motivation and what keep bringing me back to it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that actually, because I think, if I were to look at my own career over the last 15 years, my drive has ebbed and flowed. You can get burnt out, you can get overworked, and I'm wondering, you've been doing it even longer, really, because you were doing it as a child competitively. And I wonder, like, what was driving you change? Because you said, oh, I really wanted to get the gold medal and I wanted to represent my country. And, is there a consistent underlying drive, or is that also changed as you've got older?
There are definitely some changes. Like, I remember after the Olympics in Rio, like my motivation to keep being in the Olympic world was kind of gone. I know how much it was taking to be at that level, and the commitment that you have to put into it. I'm not saying that now there is less commitment, but it's different. I still have time, if I want to, for a day to chill out on the couch and don't feel guilty about it. And when you're really trying to achieve, a really big result in the Olympic world, I mean, there's not really a day off. There's never like a moment for yourself. It's all like 24/7 about training, recovering, resting, just get ready for the next day and keep doing it. And I've been doing that for, I don't know, 16 years. Like, so, and every time that you finish the Olympics, it's almost this like feeling of like, who am I without this? Because I've been just doing this for my entire life and
Yeah, right.
put so much aside. Like there's literally nothing else. If you want to do it at a certain level, then if you want to do it not that competitively, probably you can balance more things in life. So like after Rio, I was really, I'm not sure like burnout was the right word, but it was definitely some frustration for, coming home without a medal. We got really close to it, but not close enough. And I think that was definitely our goal to win a medal in Rio. And so it was a bit of that, dealing with that kind of grief of like, what happened. We came from like season where we were winning world championships, Europeans and World Cups, and we were one of the top team in the world, to like get to the Olympics and crash, not being able to perform at that level. So there was a bit of that. And then really just the drive and the motivation to put other 4 years of that kind of work into it. And like I was really honest with myself, and I think Julia in that moment was also really honest with herself, and we were both like, I don't think I have it in me to do it all over again.
I can't
And
even imagine how that would have felt, like that here we go again for 4 years. Yeah, I can totally see how that would have been a big question.
yeah, and I never had that question, after London. Like after London was like, that's okay, that's gone, ready to go for another 4 years. Let's do it. Let's do it better. Let's do it like in a different way. So it was a really different like mindset. And that's what I really realized. Oh, it's probably my time in the Olympic stuff is over, and I need to find what's next. And it was the year before the ocean race that was starting in 2017. So I was like, oh, maybe that's something really cool to try to pursue. And I didn't really know how. Like, in Italy, didn't have a lot of representation about it. I was like, I don't know, no one ever, really not. There was not really women professional sailor doing it. So I'm like, okay, I might have to just pave my own path towards this new goal. It's a mix. It's always a mix, I feel, of like a bit of luck, a bit of like being at the right place with the right people at the right moment, and sometimes just being really aware. So like you see this train coming and you don't just let it pass in front of your eyes without catching it. So I always think it's a lot of factors when things in life change and things in life happen. Yeah, and it was really just meeting new people. At that time, I had a couple of few phone calls from some friends and be like, hey, would you be interested to do this training camp in Portugal. Would you be interested to do that? And, at that point I was like, okay, I think the only way to do it is don't say no and go for it, and just fully throw myself into this new adventure. And one thing got into the other. I was able to meet Di Cafari, that was the skipper of Turn the Tide on Plastic. That was the team in 17-18, and had a tryout with her. And and again, it was really motivating for me, because the child part of me was like, oh my God, this is so new. I never been really offshore at this level. I have no idea what freeze dry tastes. I have no idea how to like plug a sail on the bow. Like, no idea about anything, but I was really like committed to like throw myself into it and be curious and motivated and like learn from all the experienced people around me. And after this tryout, I was like, oh, let's see how does it go. And I got called in the office with Dee and her team manager, and they offered a spot on their team for the ocean race. I was like, is this for real? And I think that's really where it started. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And I think it also drives a lot what I want to do right now with my own campaign. And, if Dee at that time didn't trust me and give me that opportunity, I would probably not be here still doing the sport at this level, And for her in that moment, it would have been so much easier to just pick 10 really experienced people and go and race around the world, instead of pick someone that comes from a 49er and never raced offshore in her life, and ask the question about what do I need to pack for the next leg, because I have no idea what to expect. So I think that was really special from her side, being able to see some talent that might need some work, but at the same time, she was really keen to be teaching us a lot and guide us through that experience.
I think it's a really nice story. I mean, often life goes this way, where you essentially quit the Olympic circuit. And to a lot of people, like the quitting, or, one could see it as a failure, or like and kind of not getting the medal. How having the sort of self-awareness to know this is the time to leave actually opened this huge new chapter in your life. And if you had struggled through trying to prove something or whatever, it would never have happened. It's such a good message for us all.
I couldn't agree more with you. I have a lot of friends that I think they're stuck a little bit in that world of like trying to pursue the Olympics, try to pursue medals, and time goes on, and then suddenly you are almost 40, and the only thing that and the only world that you've been part of is that small world of Olympic classes. It gave me a lot. I mean, I will not change anything, it gave me so much, but at the same time, it's also like it took so much away from me, and I couldn't even imagine doing that for my entire career. And it's true that it's scary at first, because you kind of leave that safe space of like, I know what I have to do. I know at what time I need to have my meal. I know when I have to go to the gym. I know when I'm going to the World Cup in Palma in here, and when it's the World Championship. Everything is like so scheduled and it's so clear, and
right. And for some extent, you've been there for a while, so you're kind of a big fish in the pond.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like, you're kind of living that safe place, because it's everything that to kind of throw yourself in the unknown. And I can only imagine that can be really scary for a lot of people. And it was not super easy for me neither. Like, I fully had to like quit my job. Like, I've been in the Air Force for 10 years, and as soon I was even trying to go to this tryout for the ocean race, I had to quit the Air Force. And sadly, you have no salary, no no means to leave, and you're hoping for the best because it's a tryout. So it can go either in a good way or in a bad way, and you just got back home. And so I do agree that it can be really scary, and you know, probably athletes that are trying to transition from like Olympic circuits and into more like the professional world might also need a bit more support and help from their NGBs or the Olympic committees. And I think in the last few years that changed, and there is definitely more tools, more support out there that athletes can use. But a few years ago, when I was in that position, there was pretty much nothing. It was pretty much like either you are in it or you're not, and you're gonna figure it out. So it
So in
can
a
be
way, you
hard.
were an athlete coming out of a sport, and you were also a veteran. You were
Kind of. I
coming out
mean, a
two things.
veteran. Yeah, veteran is a big word. Like I've never been deployed, to any mission or anything. It was really just be part of the sports team for the Air Force, and be able to like race and at the same time represent the Air Force. And but it's been my life and my job for 10 years, and suddenly, yeah, you kind of give up on everything just to follow this next, what's the next dream, what's the next goal. And yeah, I think it's really important, especially maybe for the young generation that are going through that stuff, that at the end, everything that like the Olympic sailing taught me was really like dedication and like the never give up kind of mentality. Things are hard, but we can do hard things. And that can be really used in every aspect of our lives. And for sure, as you transition into a new working perspective, or keep going with your education or anything in life, you can still use that skills that you learn in that such a competitive environment.
Yeah, and I think, and to know that you have skills that are applicable in a new area and that those skills don't disappear, because I think when you're on this trajectory up to a gold medal, to leave, it's hard. People are sometimes quite limited in their imagination. They can see the gold medal. They're like, but you're walking away from that gold medal and you're probably thinking somewhere in my gut, I can feel there's something else around the corner. How do you listen to that inside of you? Like, do you have ways in which you kind of connect to your inner voice or your gut feeling, beyond sailing, or is it through sailing that you do that?
Um, I mean, a part of it is maybe I'm never been so like extremely focused on like the results and the medals and the trophies. I was really, really interested always in the journey to get there. And like if I do, I don't know, I see it as a ladder, if with 10 steps, if I do like all the 10 steps the proper way, I can probably reach a good result. But I always found it extremely hard and extremely like, I don't know, almost give me like anxiety to just think about the result, because it's such a small thing at the top of everything, and you risk to miss all the details that you need to do before getting even there. So I mean that always kept me quite grounded and just really focused on the work and in the everyday work, and just like, okay, there are some days that are harder, some days that are easier. I'm gonna just keep pushing through it. I'm not sure, for sure you have a lot of people around you that like, oh, come on, you're at the peak of your career, like, physically you're still extremely strong. Like, it's not gonna take that much to keep going for another 3 year and a half and get some revenge, But at the same time, I was like, I don't know, do I really need that? Like, then you
Yeah.
also start to put other things in perspective too. Like, I have a lot of friends that won medals at the Olympics, and I don't know. I don't feel any like jealousy, or I don't think like their lives are better than mine, or that medal completely changed their lives. I don't think it does. It's more about a really amazing accomplishment that, kind of pay off for all that work that you've done to get there. But I also don't think it's always a life-changing moment. And I guess I was able to make peace with myself, being like, yeah, I don't think I will be able to have no regrets about it and just move on with my life. And it's a pretty good feeling to have because I know it's not that something that everybody has.
I think I think this is we're possibly getting too deep into the meaning of life here, but I totally agree. And, with realizing that, is life about getting to the top of the mountain, or is it about the journey up? I mean, it sounds so cliche, but like the truth is, it is the journey, because when you get to the top, it's like, well, what next? Everyone just says,
Exactly.
oh, so you finished, racing around the world, you came first, you become the first Italian to do so. So what are you doing next? It's everyone wants more, more, more all the time.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's also really demanding on the athletes, on the sailors in this case, because like, oh come on, just let me like enjoy it for a moment.
Right.
Like, let me alone. Like this has been a great journey. It ended up being something great. Let me just freaking enjoy it.
Yeah, I totally hear you.
I want a little bit of time to maybe not even think what is next. And there is a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of pressure from society, from media, from sponsors, from federation, for everybody to always, as you said, thinking, oh, of course, what is next? What is more? And sometimes I'm like, I don't know what is next. I really just want to stop, maybe sit somewhere, take a deep breath, and enjoy the moment and live it, and live
Yeah.
it fully. And we're, I think, ending up in a society where it's really missing the point of we're working so hard to achieve something to then awfully achieve it. And when you're doing it, it's almost have no value anymore because, oh, it's done. So into the next, and you're like, come on.
Which is like the
Real
the absolute
hard.
antithesis of sailing, because sailing in
Yeah.
itself, that the beauty of it probably is that you are so present in the moment. And if you start
Yeah.
thinking about medals or land or whatever, like
Oh,
you're gonna
yeah.
pull out and you won't perform. So it's like such a sort of, yeah, head spin almost immediately
Yes.
as you get to the dock.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think sailing really teach you a lot about preparation and anticipation, like the example of weather. We try really hard to not be surprised by any weather. It's all about checking the forecast, having the newest forecast in your hand to understand what's going to happen in 6 hours, in 12 hours, in 3 days. So there is a lot of like work in anticipation and making sure what's next. But at the same time, if I know that I'm racing around the world and I have another, 45 days left, it's probably extremely hard for mentally to think like, oh, is this done yet?
Yeah, bad plan.
Like, like you might not get to the end because it's really about thinking, okay, one little step at a time is today, tomorrow I'm gonna think about tomorrow, and you move on with the days, and it keeps them sanity because yeah, so I think it's a special sport compared to so many other sports where it's so about that 10 seconds or that small line at the bottom of the pool that you have to follow. And I think sailing really is able to bring in a dimension that is quite big, and there are so many factors at the same time that you need to like think about, and it's you as a human, but it's also the machine as the boat, and how kind of you take care of each other, and the outside factor, the weather, the ocean, the waves. I love that part of it, and I love outdoors, so I love the fact to be out there and in an environment is way bigger than us as a human being, and I don't feel like we even can say that we are challenged. I think we're just try to make it through it.
Right, agreed. You know, you were so humble at the beginning when you were talking about your sailing abilities, and maybe that just comes from, you know, you have to be, don't you? You have to be humble out there.
I think, I mean, I know a lot of people that are doing this sport and they're not that humble. So I guess you can do it in so many different ways. But at the same time, I also think that you can't. I know that I can't control everything. You know, I can do my best to be as much prepared as possible, making sure that the boat is really in a good place, making sure that the team that I have behind is really, you know, performing and delivering a boat that is like ready to go. But then at the end, it's still a boat, it's still a piece of carbon in the middle of an incredible massive ocean. And it's still a small human being trying to manage all that. So there is a big list of things that I feel I can control. And then there is a list of things that you kind of have to deal with it if anything happen, if anything raise up, and I don't think you can fight it being like, oh, I'm so much stronger than that. It's about, okay, I might not be stronger than that, but I need to find a way to like work through it. And I guess where that's where I don't know, it's just my personality, and I'm not like I don't push myself down. I have still confidence, but I also like humble enough that there are things that I can't control, and that's fine, and it's part of the game, and you play with it.
I think in my British culture, I'd say that's classy. So excellent. I you have a daughter, right?
Yes, she's
Yeah.
a little 3 years old weapon.
And what do you say? Does she ever ask you, you know, what's it like out there?
Um, Not really, not yet. Maybe she's a bit too young still to really understand the dimension of it. A fun fact is when they were doing something at school and they were asking about what the parents' jobs are, and she said that like my wife had this like, oh, my mommy travel a lot. She works here, she works there, she go places, she takes airplanes, and she's on phone calls. And then talking about me, she said, oh, and my mama vacuum. And I'm like, okay, that's great.
She
That's
says you
her point.
vacuum.
I vacuum. Yeah, I vacuum the house. So I guess for me it was just so refreshing and so amazing because that's what she probably see in her eyes. Is like, oh yeah, you know, when mom is around and she's at home, yeah, she likes to clean the house and she vacuum. I
What a
don't know.
relief to be reminded by your own child that you're like a rounded human.
Yeah, and I was like, that's great, you know. And the teacher was like, yeah, I mean, we know that you're doing more than that. I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I like, you know, it's pretty awesome. Like, you know, I like that she at least have a memory of me being like doing something instead of being, I don't know, my mom is always away. You know, that could have been an easy answer that but yeah.
How is leaving? How do you find that leaving your family? That's something, you know, and my offshore sailing career has been such a difficult thing, is understanding and seeing a future and everything, you know, with family and love and home and sailing. And especially in my early 20s, I was like, is it actually possible? You know, you spoke about
Yeah.
older role models, you know, back, you know, I know it's only 10, 15 years ago, but back then there wasn't such a clear example of how that's actually achievable.
Uh, I will absolutely lie saying that it's easy because it's not. I think personally, probably even with my own family, we underestimated how hard it might be. And, you know, both my wife and myself are coming from a sailing environment. I mean, my wife has been at the Olympics, has been around the world. She's now, you know, working for the Olympic team for US Sailing. Like, I mean, she's extremely involved in the sport. She does understand a lot about it. But it's hard. It's really hard because it you kind of get used to that distance, you know, you kind of get used to be just in two places and with different time zones, with different schedules. And I think you get to one point where you're so used about that distance that like, yeah, and then it feels like is this still working, you know? Like, I mean, the last thing you want in a relationship is probably distance, you know? You want closeness, you want communication, you want like a lot of like things being done together. And the same with a really young child is like, I know, you know, the relationship that I have with my wife is really hard for her because she's a lot of time in charge of the parenting of our daughter by herself, you know. And I know that she didn't really sign it up for to be like a single parent. And so all this is definitely taking a, you know, a big, I think a big hit on personal life. At the same time, I think we, you know, we fell in love because of the people that we are, and you know, I always love the fact that Sally doesn't want to be like a stay-at-home mom, and she has her own personal dreams and goals, and she loves working, she loves, you know, getting things done, and I love that part of her. And at the same time, she loves the fact that I'm really committed to the sport, and I'm working hard for it. And so I think these big values is what kind of keep us alive somehow. But it's not easy, you know. And I think anybody that says like, oh yeah, yeah, it's so easy, deep inside, it's not really. So it might be a lie.
You're like, can someone tell the truth? Because it would feel a lot less
Yeah,
lonely.
yeah, and you know, you look around, and I like other skippers and other people that are really involved in the sport. Like, I mean, not for everybody it was easy to, you know, keep families together or be like in a long-term relationship, because I think really these strong commitments that we have with our own careers. And it's not like a, you know, 8 to 5 Monday, Friday job. It's
Right.
way more than that. And it's a big, yeah, it's a career. Is I don't think it's really considered only a job. And I think is both a special side of it, and at the same time is also really, really heavy for the people around you.
And for you, Frankie, you are sailing, but you're also involved in sort of more advocacy behind the scenes as well. So your job and your career are clearly more than just that. You know, it sounds like you're kind of weaving in your own passion and your own purpose on a deeper level. So would you mind kind of like bringing to life, you know, so that you can tell me more than just what's online about what you're pushing forward behind the scenes?
Absolutely. Look, if you were asking me this question years ago, I would tell you I'm not sure I have any purpose. I just want to go out there racing and try to win as hard as I can. And that was my biggest purpose in sport and life. That's where my days were just around all that. And the last few years, what I really felt inside is that was not enough anymore. And it's both from experience, it's both from age, it's both from life experiences overall. You know, I'm originally from Italy. I moved to the US, and it's just a full change in like almost reimagine who you are as, you know, a quite privileged, but still an immigrant in a different country with a different language, a different culture. And of course, I mean, I look how I look. You know, I'm a white, middle class woman, like moving in a country that promote working hard, and you know, so like it definitely matched pretty well with who I am. But at the same time, the journey is not always so easy. And I was like, God, this is quite hard for me. I can't even imagine how hard it can be for someone with even less privilege than one I have. And that's where I was really like, okay, performance is important, racing is important, winning is important, but it shouldn't be at all cost. We should be doing it with a purpose. And if the purpose behind the project is taking over a little bit of the performance, I'm okay with that right now. Like I'm 37, I'm absolutely in peace with myself that I'm really happy and okay to give up on some performance to be able to like have a team where we do proper hiring, diverse hiring, like getting opportunities to people out there, more representation. And I think that's really the purpose behind the project. And with 11-hour racing at the beginning, it was hard. And I think even now, almost a year and a half after, we got to work together, it's still really hard to explain it, and at the same time really hard to see where the solutions are. Because I mean, if you look at our industry, we all look the same, we all kind of come from same backgrounds. Like it's really hard for someone in a underdeveloped neighborhood, maybe a person of color or another minority, to really make it through with our sport and get it to the highest level. And we are completely missing that talent. We might not even know that there is talent somewhere because we're not outreaching to it. And I think with our project, with 11-hour racing and with my own campaign, we build this, it's a bit of a slogan, but it does match my ideals, that is believe, belong, achieve. And it's like, believe in yourself, believe in your communities, believing in the people that you have around you, belonging, that is so important to then feel truly part of something that is bigger than yourself. And with that, are achieving our goals. And that comes from my own philosophy, and it's been really supported from everybody in my team. And I think at the beginning, everybody was like, how do you want to do things differently? And I'm like, I guess we just have to like try, and we will make mistakes and then we will try again. But we can't just keep, calling our 5, 10 friends and be like, hey, I'm going to do these cool things for the next few years. Do you want to be part of it? We need to do more homework. We need to do proper hiring that is happening in so many other industries. And in our sport, it's still, a couple of phone calls and just your circle will keep getting into your circle. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, we just need to push. We need to put the bar a little higher and be the example that even if you put the bar a bit higher, yes, the work at the beginning might be harder, but then in the long term, the work can be so much better.
Yeah, I think
And
it's hard for people maybe who are outside of sailing, especially like kind of the professional side, to appreciate, you basically never see anyone who isn't white on the docks, with hundreds and hundreds of people. You almost never, I just sat on the start of the Fastnet race, and there was there was really an impressive number of women, and there was still, most of the boats had no women.
yes,
That it's so almost alien in today's world to have a community that's we're a bit behind. So
yeah,
good for you, because it basically takes someone at the top of the sport to say, I'm going to put my own ego or my own obsession with winning just slightly lower than I maybe should. But fascinatingly, maybe that will ultimately produce the results, because we started this
yes.
podcast and you said, yourself, like sailing is a rounded sport. It's not just about being obsessed with the podium. It's about people. It's about nature. It's about, lots of things.
Yeah. And I think winning sometimes get connected so much to the final result. And, maybe we just need to understand what the definition of winning is. Is winning just put a medal around our neck? I mean, for some, it might be. And, for a lot of years in my life, that has been. And then I was like, it doesn't really like it means kind of nothing personally. And maybe we just need to really evaluate what winning is. And winning might be having, more representation in our sport, having like young boys and girls looking up for someone and be like, yeah, I mean, there's people like me doing it, and then I can do it. It's really hard to pave your own path if you don't have anybody in front of you that either already done it or is doing it for you a little bit and give you that hope that something can be done. It's like record breaking. Like there is these records that are sitting there for years, years, years. Then one person break it and suddenly another person break it. And then someone else come and break it again because the first person that did it show that it was possible. And other
Yes.
people behind was like, then we can do it. And it's a chain reaction. And funny fact that in during the course of the cup, like a month ago, I had an interview and the interviewer was like, like this is a bit off topic offline, but like I just want to thank you because you are the only out skipper in the IMOCA class. And until now, like there was not really any representation for the LGBTQI community. And I struggle a bit with my own identity. And I just felt really lonely. And having someone that is so confident and has like a big sponsorship and a family and everything behind and just show how normal it is. So it just gave me like so much hope. And I was like, oh, okay. It's just me, I'm and so I think each of us has that. We are all, can you hear me or?
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay. We're all different and
I'm
I don't know, we
mesmerized by
all,
what you're speaking about. That's why I'm like blank faced.
and we all are different. We all bring our own differences and our own backgrounds, culture. So I really think like we can all be that. I don't need to go around with a rainbow flag for people to think like I'm something special. It's just being myself and be confident in my own shoes shows that a lot of things can be done no matter who you are, no matter who you love, no matter who you are in life. And we need way more of that in our sport because I think it's keep being labeled a lot has this like, you need to be a white middle-aged man, tough, get a pint of beer at the pub and go back with your friends and going sailing. And that
Or you
might
need to
not
be a
be,
woman who plays on her sexuality with the men to get up to the top. Which
or
is also,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I think, for a lot of people that doesn't feel a safe place to be part of. And so there are a lot of that where, belonging again come back into the picture and being like to make people really feel they belong in an industry. They need representation, they need safety, safeguarding. They need a space where they can be the person they are and of course with respect, in the end there are some boundaries where you can't just be whoever, but I think it's really like a part of respect that we need more in our sport. And, I found for myself, and I really want to try to give it to way more people that can then go out there and do also the work.
I think I should take a moment to say thank you, on behalf of everyone, because for anyone who watches you and does feel like that person felt, who said, "Wow, I haven't ever met anyone who is like me." I think on one side of it, you might be like, "Wow, well, this is just me. I'm just living my life." But it is brave to be honest and to be vulnerable and to be yourself. That is brave because it puts you in a position where you are sort of shields down, open for judgment. And as you just said, it just takes one person to change things, and then the dominoes begin. So good for you.
Yeah, thanks. And I do believe that's the power of advocacy, and is really to create that collective action of people thinking, hey, whatever that person is doing, saying, believe in it, is really important to me too, and I want to be part of it. And that's create community. And I think in other sports so far, there's been a really big, powerful movement. We look at the women's soccer in the US, or, in the outdoor industry with, like lot of climate action advocacy. Like there's been a really push from the communities that are the most affected by it. And we need that in our sports too. We need a group of collective that, and I think that's where, we can use our privilege to do something really good. Because of course people are like, come on, it's quite easy. You have a big sponsor, you have your own project, like life is good for you.
Easy.
And I'm telling you, yeah, life is pretty good for me. But then is an option there that you can do two things. Either your life is easy, you take it, you do whatever you want, and you move on with it without really doing anything else. Or you can take that privilege and do something more powerful and do something with it and bring more people into the journey. And for me, that sponsorship with 11 Hour Racing is an incredible opportunity to bring more people in it, not to push people out. Like we want to have a proper internship. We want to create opportunities for more women to get offshore. We are, matching with the Magenta Project to get more mentees to have opportunities to work in the shed, to go sailing, to just creating more. It doesn't mean that there is less left for you. I feel it's the opposite. It means that there's so much more for you too. And that's why we are really trying to create this organizing workshop, get really people on board with it and be like, yeah, you can be a 55 years old guy that's been in this industry forever. I mean, I don't know, you might have a young daughter or you might have a young grandkid, set an example for them. You can be also part of the change in the sport. And actually, if it comes from someone that has been also a bit the problem of it, it's so much more powerful.
Yeah, but I think that you highlighting that sort of scarcity mindset, that feeling like, oh no, if I do this, there'll be less. That's what it is. It's like, even the 55, 60-year-old guys who have opportunities raining on them, don't feel, I remember having a conversation with one and them saying, it's really a problem. We don't have enough women. We don't have enough diversity in the sport. And yet they're in a position of hiring and they're not hiring any women, and I think it's fear. They're afraid of something, afraid of.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's fear. I'm not sure if it's a bit of not being educated enough, or really also not doing the proper homework. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take the time and review these resumes and have proper interviews and understand really what the skills of these people are. And sometimes I feel the best thing will be taking completely out the gender or photos in these resumes and put fake names on it and be like, who would you hire out of these 10 people out of their resumes? And we can't just go through resume. You can kind of, sell yourself as much as you want, but at the same time, there is a lot of that. And yeah, it's creating more education. And how do we unbias people from what they already have through experience, through their own experiences, and etc. Because for sure, there are some women that are extremely talented and some that are less. The same is for guys. There are some that are really talented and some are less. And at the same time, it's also good to try to give opportunities so, the less experience can build more and can become better. And so they have higher chance also to get hired, to get spots on boats, to get spots on shore teams or management teams.
So if anyone's listening to this and they want to kind of interact with what you're doing in this space or follow it or support it, or maybe they're a sailor and they want to get involved, I mean, where do they go to do that?
So we have a full website online where you can also find email contact, and there is my email on there. We're gonna run workshops and trying to get really specific workshop for different kind of communities, and anybody that is also really keen to become involved with the workshop then can also deliver their own workshops in their own communities. And that's really the biggest goal that we have with these workshops, is like not us just doing it. It's more like we're going to do it. And then if you have your community sailing program at home in California, in Rhode Island, then you can become someone that can run this workshop in your own community and like bring, values of belonging in your own communities, how to expand this outreach. We're doing some education work. We've been working and collaborating with the Leeds Beckett University in the UK, and we are doing a research about the power of belonging and performance in sports, because there is not so much out there. And me saying it that it's powerful and it should be done, I don't think it's a super scientific value on. So we really want to get some data that we can show and be like, okay, this is a study and this is the data that prove that. And then it's really the work about getting into the collective action and getting more people on board with it. We're going to have internship programs in our own team. We are getting, mentees on board our boat in the shore team. In the preparation of the transat, for example, we're going to have some mentees doing the deliveries. We're going to have another mentee completely working with the shore team to prepare the transat, and just also provide guidelines for fair hiring and unbiased hiring, because this is so important in the industry that sometimes we are losing so much talent just because we are not looking at it.
Right.
And
so you're gonna presumably set an example for the other kind of pro teams in sailing that they could follow.
We hope so.
If they wanted to.
And like the work that we want to do, we really want to do it collaborative. So it's, if other teams are doing already amazing job or they're doing so much better work than what we do, we want to know. And if we even have a bit more of power to like broadcast that, getting out of the media, like that's also the power of having, an amazing sponsor like 11 Hour Racing and having all these contacts with media outlets. Like there might be someone out there doing already the work, but maybe they don't have a voice. And we want to be the platform to give other people the voice to share their work, their ideas. And it's really using the communities to make our sport a better and safer place.
Well, thank you for the work you're doing. First of all, I'm sure that many people who are listening to this, including myself, are probably like, "Yes, let's go." I wonder, when you keep saying these words, believe and belonging, and I think we could perhaps use this as sort of a last question. But I know you love your time in the mountains. You of course love sailing, and when I hear those words, for me, I'm also passionate about being as far away from the sea. Ironically, I also did a stint living in Colorado, so you choose a home as far away from the ocean as you can basically get in Utah. But both the sea and the mountains, I think, are places in which, when I feel alone, and not accepted on land, I always feel accepted, like a sense of belonging, less lonely out there. And I wonder, what do you find the same? What do you get from immersing yourself in nature? Like, is there something more that you go for?
I really find myself most of the time, when I'm really overwhelmed and there's a lot going on land, and you get on, working, phone calls, trying to balance family lives with work. Like you get to one point where it's almost, mentally and emotionally overwhelming. And when I get to be on the mountains or on the ocean, I really feel this connection with nature that is really special. And it's a moment for myself to like rebalance myself with the nature around me. And I love the challenge side of it. I'm not like a big like hiking person around, It's more about like, okay, I put, the skins on my skis and I want to really like get over there and the ski down. Like I love the challenge part of it. And it's the same on sailing. I'm not a big cruising person. I love racing, but it's still this like connection with something that is so much bigger than us and it's so much powerful than us. And it just like completely level me back to who I am and where I come from, a little human being on this planet. And it just feels good, it feels really settling and it feels peaceful. And it's a good way for me to like recharge and hopefully come back also to my daily, schedule and routine, more motivated, more like happy, and joyful person. And all that. I really found it outside in the outdoor. And I also think the mountains and oceans are not that disconnected as people might thought. I think it's a really global connection with water, with this circle of life around our planet. Our ocean exists because of our lands and our mountains. Agriculture and feeding us as a human being exists because all these environments are connected together. And as a humans and a population, I also think we should really look deep in what nature is able to do, and that is connect. Mountains connect to ocean through rivers and lakes and land, and there is this like natural flow of connection in all our differences. And I feel as a human being, we should learn so much more about that. That we might all be different, but we're all the same, and we're all on this planet, and we all survive because of this one only planet that we have. And we should all work together toward defending our nature and defending us as a people. Everything that is going on now in the world I don't think it's really who we are or who we should be. And sometimes just being outside and out there really bring me back to like, why simple things are so incredibly able to work in harmony and together, and we are not.
I don't almost want to say anything because that was such a beautiful ending to what's been a really inspiring and thought-provoking podcast. I can only say that I fully agree with what you're saying. And as you say, like the being out in nature reminds you that we are all part of the same thing, and the simplicity of being a human. Frankie, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
And,
that was such a pleasure.
We will follow your career avidly. I think you represent so many different things for so many different people, not just as a sailor, but someone who can reinvent themselves and start a new chapter in their life, someone who's a mother, someone who's an outdoor enthusiast, a partner, and now an advocate and a voice for something more and something meaningful. So you're an inspiration in many different ways and relatable in many different ways. And grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really a great pleasure.
Thanks again to our sponsors, Offshore Passage Opportunities and Rutgerson Marine. Check them out at sailopo.com and rutgerson.se and give them your business. Thank you. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 North and hosted by Andy Schell, Nikki Henderson, and me, August Sandberg. The show is mixed and produced by Andy and myself in Sweden and Norway, respectively. Our intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest, sailor, and musician Cameron Dale, while the outro music you're hearing now is, of course, by our friends Storm Weather Shanty Choir from Norway. We love hearing from our fans, so send your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com, and please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to join us on the Quarterdeck as well to nerd out about seamanship. That's quarterdeck.59-north.com. Until next time, hold fast.
I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more.